Legge wrapping up Georgia's lopsided 45-16 win over South Carolina right behind me. It's a stadium you just can't tell because of the fog. And what also rolled in was Georgia's offense absolutely blistering South Carolina on the ground. I've watched these two teams play a lot through the years. I've been to every single game in this series since 1995. And, Georgia has beaten South Carolina in pretty severe ways. This is one of the worst ones, though. And particularly, the last time we were here, it was a pretty bad beating, too. But this was this felt even worse. So 45-16, obviously, and then 471 yards, 273 for Carolina. JT Daniels, I thought it was a pretty good night. I didn't think it was unbelievable, but he goes 10 of 16. He earned an interception that didn't happen, and then he got an interception that he really didn't earn on that one ball just before the half. But 10 of 16, 139 yards. That was efficient, fine, whatever. But then just 332 yards on the ground. I think that's the season high for Georgia. They did what they had to do. They were really good on offense tonight, just period. This is probably what you saw tonight. Maybe with a few more shots down the field is what you're going to see in the future from Georgia. If this group basically comes back, maybe you lose Zamir, I don't know, maybe you just lose a couple of guys. Deshaun Edwards looked good. This was a solid, grouping from the Dawgs. And then I thought the defense, with the exception of one drive, really played well. You had the trick play, drive, and trick plays, they're risky, but when they work, they usually wind up on those drives with scores. But this really was a game to me that Georgia dominated from the start. I think they got up 21-0 before Carolina scored. But then you look at this, Georgia only had, they had 10 drives, and they scored on 7 of them, and the 8th they took a knee at the 1 yard line. So this was completely dominant in every single way. For Carolina, let's see, that's 4 punts, this was not close. And when you want to beat someone's brains in, this is how you do it. It was really solid football from a program and a team that needs really solid football right now. You have people nationally saying, hey, these guys don't belong in the top 10. Y'all look like idiots, because now you're going to say, like Northwestern deserves to be in it. Come on, give me a break. Who are you putting over Georgia? I'm not saying there's some sort of dominant team, but who are you putting in front of them? I get it, Alabama and Florida, that makes sense. Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M, okay. Cincinnati, I didn't even get Cincinnati. You're going to put Miami in front of them? You're going to put Northwestern in front of them? Oklahoma? Indiana? Iowa State? Just shut up. You sound stupid. Oregon? This is not a playoff level team. We've been talking, this team's not going to win the national championship. I've been talking about that for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. But, some of y'all don't know what, you get so hot takey that you sound like morons. And, as someone who is almost an expert at sounding like a moron and an idiot, I just tell y'all to scale it back some. Northwestern, again, lost to Michigan State. Michigan State is not quality by any stretch. Now, Georgia goes and loses at Missouri. Okay, that's a different ballgame. But, everyone just gets so far ahead of themselves. Texas, you're going to put Texas in front. Texas lost again. 3rd time this week. Oregon, they lose. BYU can't schedule anybody. God bless them. They just can't do it. So, Georgia's going to – I'm sorry to the national haters out there, and I'm not going to try to be that guy, okay? This is a good team. They ain't great. They're not winning a national championship. Well, guess who else isn't? Oklahoma, Miami, Indiana, Iowa State, BYU, Oregon, Wisconsin, Texas, USC. Cincinnati. If Georgia gets Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl, that's going to be a tough fight. This is a Cincinnati team that is pretty good. But I just am stunned sometimes with how I think what happens is that there's a certain standard or metric that folks in the media think that Georgia should be at, which is fine. I think they're not wrong about that. But there's also the who's better than them thing. And tonight we saw that this thing's coming together now all of a sudden. Particularly South Carolina's not good. Mississippi State is not good. But this offense that we've seen from Georgia these last two games has been pretty good. Okay, pretty good. Not perfect, but they're winning these games. And tonight they're winning them going away. And we're going to see. Vanderbilt. Not good. I don't know if Vanderbilt will score against Georgia, but Georgia's going to probably put up 40 or more. We'll just see what happens. I think the thing to me is, and not to be so overly optimistic, when you start looking at the pieces of the puzzle that are coming into this program, if JT Daniels returns, I'm not sure why he would leave, but if he were to return, this passing game could be, perhaps the best or one of the best in the SEC in 2021. You're talking about Burton, Pickens in theory. Now Arian Smith's out there running around. You would return Blaylock, Kyrus Jackson. Then, I don't think I need to explain what the run game can do when they're not dealing with a 3-3-5 bizarro defense that Mississippi State dealt them last week. You have to sometimes win games in ugly ways against bad teams. If you watch the Gators today for a half, they were outplayed by Kentucky. At no time did I think they would lose that game, but it was ugly. It was ugly for a lot of that game. Well, Georgia was ugly the first half against Mississippi State last week for sure, and the run game was just never there. Well, it was there tonight, and how? Let me tell you, Carolina is not. This was as bad an atmosphere that I've seen for South Carolina, Georgia, and Columbia in my lifetime. And I was at the South Carolina Clemson game where at the end of the year the two teams combined had 2 wins. And that was Clemson's 2 wins. South Carolina ended that year without a win. And this was worse than that. And I know it's partly COVID related, but they're just pushing through this season. They got to start over, and it'll take them a couple of years to get where they got to go, because they just don't have the parts right now. They have very few parts, but they don't have what they need on the offensive line. The defensive line tonight was just a disaster, and that's where they should actually be decent with Huntley and Birch. They didn't even play. Sandage. These are not bad players. These are guys that Georgia recruited, 2 of those guys. So South Carolina's got a long way to go. The upset last year kind of skews what reality is. This is now Georgia's won 5 of the last 6 games against South Carolina, most of those by double digits. 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. Those are all double-digit wins. They weren't all blowouts, but 15 was. 17 was not a blowout. They won by 14. 15 was. 18 was, and 20. So these, Carolina's got a long way to go, and they should be far more competitive than what we saw tonight. But they just don't have the kids, I don't think, right now, and it's going to take them a little bit of time. If it's Shane Beamer and Billy Napier, it's going to be tough. They're really good players, got to perform. Same thing goes for Georgia. You're really good players, James Cook, Zamir, Pickens, Burton, Kyrus. These guys have to play. They have to flash. All those guys flashed tonight. So we're just going to see where the future holds. You don't get any credit for playing well against Vanderbilt. You don't get any credit for playing well against this South Carolina team. But all you can do is go out there and play. And, the Georgia team that I'm seeing kind of getting rolling all of a sudden here is going to be looking towards the future. What will that future be? And they actually have a future in front of them. They've got something to play for. These guys are probably, it depends on who comes back, but these guys will be a top 6, top 5 team next year. They're going to be a really good team again. And you're going to see they could have they certainly could have one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the conference, if not country, coming back. And so it will depend on what we see from JT Daniels. Like tonight, it was good. It wasn't great. The one ball should have been picked. that he threw into double coverage, the ball on the other side going into halftime, that should not have been picked, but things equal out. And the way Georgia played tonight could be what you see in the future. A defense that controls things for the most part. I mean, teams are going to score. I mean, that's just what this is anymore. But if you can continue to score 35 points or more, then maybe you can win shootout games. I mean, it's not going to all be on the defense to get you where you got to go. This has been missing. They haven't had a quarterback like this since Jacob. And, Jacob was the freshman year guy. So let's just see. I mean, I think you're moving in a good progressive way, but and you won a road game in the league, and that's not always easy to do. So they'll go back to Athens to play Vanderbilt, a team that's got a lot of question marks right now, and they just did not look good. Period against Mizzou. They're the worst team in the conference for sure, but that's their problem. Georgia needs to go out and perform. I need to see what more are we dealing with JT Daniels. I mean, can you get 220 yards passing, 250 yards passing, just a steady diet, 450 yards, some way or another, combination of the run and the pass. You get up there, I mean, honestly, this week, Georgia should be able to get 550 yards just because of who they're dealing with. But this was a thorough beating. I mean, the game in 2015, that was a beating, but that was it was a little bit like that, but this was far more physical than that beating. And South Carolina's got a long way to go. They have done a great job around here just as an athletic department with a lot of different stuff. The facilities look great compared to where they were 15 years ago, but the program is in trouble for sure. And I think they made the right call getting a change at head coach. Georgia now, though, when you look at where they're moving forward, you get the right pieces of the puzzle back in this deal, and you could be back in Atlanta for sure in 2021 with a lot of fans this time. Dean Legge wrapping up in Columbia. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.